for tuning in. Today we've got Kenneth Foster. Kenneth, you're 16 years old, correct?
Correct.
A real estate entrepreneur back in Virginia, and he wants to know how to get started in real estate. So, Ken, thank you for calling in today. Ken, why don't you to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're looking to do in the real estate industry?
Okay, so my name is Kenneth Foster, 16. So for the past month, I've been interested in real estate. I've been watching many videos, reading many books on it. So I see all these people, they're making a lot of money, and that's obviously what I want to do. I want to help people.
Okay. It's a good path. I mean, you do have the ability to help people in this industry. Now, I want to point out that a lot of these videos you got to make sure they're not trying to sell you something. If they're trying to sell you a class, if they're trying to sell you a book, be aware of that. They're leading you down a path to...
or their secret sauce on how to buy properties.
Which there is no secret sauce.
Yeah.
There's some tips, but no secret sauce. But so just be aware of that, Ken, as you're out there. And I think it's amazing that at 16 years old that you really... I know you're new to really making the decision to go after real estate, but, the sooner you make that choice, the better off you're going to be, because you can start educating yourself on, what path, if you want to be a broker, you want to be an investor, what do you want to do in the industry. So, but why don't we jump right in. What is your first question, Ken?
So to truly be successful in commercial real estate, how important is it to go to a top-tier university like Wharton? Or can you be successful with going to universities just not that selected?
Could get me in a lot of trouble answering this the way I want to answer it.
Why don't I answer this?
Well, I made it about a year and a half in college, and I ran out of money. So I had to pack up. I was in Nebraska, had to pack up and move to California to find a job. George went to USC, so we might have two different opinions here. So, but I'll let George jump in and go ahead and start.
Yeah, no. Actually, what I was going to say is I think it's not as big of a deal when it comes. It depends on the path you want to take in real estate. I mean, if you're looking to go into the debt and equity side, where you're not as much on the brokerage side or as an investor side. But really looking at just debt and equity, so you're placing equity for people, raising funds, placing the debt as well. That really requires a college background, and really it's not so much the college that you go to, but really the programs that you're doing. So I would look and identify really good schools that have top real estate programs, if that's the route you want to go, and then also don't really focus your major into majors that can really help you. There is definitely real estate schools, number one being USC, but but also in addition to that, you also have economics, and you also have finance. So I've noticed the econ majors, especially when it comes to investing and when it comes to grasping the analytics of the properties, they tend to do so quicker, and it kind of gives them a little bit of a leg up. But that being said, in this, and I kind of agree with Joe here too, is that the beautiful part about real estate is, and I would recommend, don't get me wrong, I recommend that you do get a college degree, but I don't think it's necessary, and it's definitely not necessary from one of the top schools, unless you're going to go into the finance aspect of it with the debt and equity placement side. If you're looking at, or looking at going more into the corporate side, say, I want to work for a national real estate developer, and I'm going to be in-house and working with them. But if you're looking to do your own investing, you're looking to get into on the brokerage or transactional side of real estate, then really just focus on what you're doing. And if anything, the make sure also, I think one of the key components a lot of people don't take into consideration when it comes to colleges or universities is what is their network like after school, because that's really what's going to pay off.
That's what I was going to let you finish, and then, but Ken, there's one thing that in my short time in college was the connections. As starting now, if you start building up your connections for your future, don't be afraid to build out a LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to start a CRM that you can collect everybody's name and contact information. It's very critical to your future. And if you do go to a college, make sure you get involved in the Alumni Association. But now, and I agree with what George is saying, although I'd like to make a pitch for the University of Nebraska. I think it's a very good school, and I'd like to see you attend there. We are going to get this football program under control at some point.
All right.
I hope. If you're going to be an investor or a broker, if you you can get into a mentoring program, and you can really start down that path now. And maybe if you start down that path with mentoring over the next year or two, then you can also join. If you go to college, you can continue that mentoring, and you'll be steps ahead of everybody else in the industry. But yeah, it just depends on what aspect of the industry you want to go to, because your big real estate firms do like to see college degrees.
Okay.
So what's your next question, Ken?
So you were just talking about mentoring. So I heard that mentoring is crucial to be successful. So do you have any tips about how to find any?
Absolutely, and this is something that we've done a good number of videos on. So what I recommend that you do, and we get calls on this, people that want to mentor with us, and honestly we're just full right now, but here in Los Angeles. But what you want to do is find your strength, and at your age, I'm guessing you're very tech savvy, right? So being tech savvy, you find somebody that could possibly use, maybe you find somebody that's going to be an investor or broker, and they're not very tech savvy. Make sure you bring something to the table. Don't just go out and look for a mentor that is going to give you all the information, and you're going to take it and run with it. Bring something to the table. That makes a really good mentor want to work with somebody, because now you're bringing them value, they're giving you value. It's give and take. So make sure you really, kind of decide what path and you're young enough, Ken, if you want to work for a broker or an investor, you could work with a broker for a summer and an investor for a summer, and you could kind of decide how you're going to get your path. But make sure whatever you decide, you bring value to that individual.
Yep, and if I can throw that in throw something in as well, Ken, that I think mentorships are very important. I don't know if I would use the word crucial, but I think it definitely will expedite and give you a boost toward your career. And more importantly, I think, is not just the mentorship, but you want to really plan out what you want to do for the long term, and then have that path. Meaning, if you want to be an investor but you don't have the capital right now, but you want to learn how to invest, how to look at properties, then a brokerage actually may be a good opportunity, because you can make some good money there, but also you learn from the clients that are already investors and what they're looking at and how they're looking at properties and what they're seeing. So you kind of get that eye from them, and you get that as well. Just be aware that whatever you decide to do or route that you want to take, that you're constantly learning from it to get to your end goal of where you want to be. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, when we say a classic it doesn't need to be a mentorship like a classic mentorship where someone is there, but it can even be, I'm working with some great clients that are repeat clients that come back to me, and they share, some of the best lessons I've learned in real estate were from some of my clients as well when on the brokerage side. So take all of that in, but really create that path. Like, what do I want? Know what you want to do, not today, but in the future, and then work backwards into creating how I'm going to get there. Is it going to need a college degree?
Yeah.
Do I go into brokerage? Do I go work for a developer? What do I want to do, and what's the best path there?
And you don't be afraid to let it evolve too, Ken. As you're going, you might change your path. You might think brokerage is something I'm interested in right now. Go be a mentor and do that, and then try it with an investor. Really find your path, but don't put so much pressure on yourself, especially at your age, to make that decision. Really,
Yes.
really be smart about it. It's going to evolve for you.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Did you have any other questions?
Yeah. So, assuming I'm in college. So, can you start investing in real estate while you're in college, such as getting your first rental property?
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, a lot of people do it. It's really, I don't know how much money you have, but you can also take a look at investing in real estate investment trusts. You can look at real estate investment trusts and put some money in there. You can start investing in those, start getting the paperwork, doing the research, see how these companies are operating, and you can really get a good lesson there. It's just a little safer path, and depending on how much money you have, but And you got to keep in mind, Ken, though, that when you're investing, make sure you're an investor, not a speculator. A lot of people there is a huge difference. Actually, this is George's favorites. Actually, I'll let you touch on it because this is George's favorite, one of George's favorite sayings, and it really rings true in a lot of instances. So go ahead.
So I mean, ultimately, and it's one of my favorite sayings, but it was also something that a mentor of mine told me way back in the day. And that you have essentially two different types of buyers. You're either an investor or a speculator. The people that are buying properties and they're hoping for a profit because they're hoping the market goes up and they're hoping to gain appreciation without a full business. Maybe I'll do a little bit of upgrades, but hopefully the market keeps going up. They tend not to be investors, but they're more speculators, and an investor will expect a return and have a targeted return for their expectations. So,
and know the path to get there.
Know the path to get there. What are they going to do with this property? Are they going to hold it for 1, 3, 5, 7 years, which is called an investment horizon, from when you acquire to how long you hold to then go to sell? And then what's your plan at that point? Now, during the time frame, are you taking the cash flow and reinvesting it into the property, adding on to it, maybe upgrading it, getting higher rents with the goal in mind to increase the value of the property by increasing the income? So there's a clear path that's set for that and what you're hoping for, but more importantly, you also understand that if your investment tends to be a little bit fluid. If you talk to almost any institutional investor and most major investors, they're going to say, yes, our investment horizon is 3 to 5 years, but we may hold on to it for 7. It really is dependent upon the market, but more importantly, the returns aren't affected. Meaning, I'm cash flowing, I'm going into it cash flowing, I understand what I'm looking at, or I built in enough reserves to cover me for the expected time to re-tenant the property if it's not currently cash flowing. And then from there, I can then, if I need to, I can hold the property, I can sell it, it's at my option. It's more an investment now versus I hope the market keeps going up because where I bought it, it's really not cash flowing, I'm not making any money, but when it does go up, I'm going to be able to sell it. Unfortunately, nobody has a crystal ball. So, yes, the market is on fire, the market has been going up, but it could just as easily go down or crash for various reasons with interest rates. There's many economic things that, kind of the fog of war, so to speak. It's cloudy, you can't really predict out. We can make some assumptions based upon historical trends, but it is difficult to forecast that. So really go into it knowing your cash flow, what your plan is, and expectations are based upon the submarket.
And your exit. At least have a couple of exits too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you want to be an investor, not a speculator. And Ken, we do get calls still from people that they have money, interest rates are low, and they just want to put money against it. And then you start talking to them about, well, what are you looking for? And you'll find out that they haven't really thought it out. So you really want to have your plan in place and really execute on that plan. And then, again, have at least 2 exit strategies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I had a plan, I've been searching through things. So correct me if I'm wrong. I'll just take you through it. So my idea for my first rental property was buy a triplex or fourplex. Use an FHA loan, which would cover about 97% financing, which means I'd have to have 3% down. Does that sound okay?
Well, I mean, it's yes and no. A couple things you want to take into consideration. FHA loan with 90% down for low leverage. It's definitely 4 units or less, so it has to fall into the single family. I like the idea of the 3 to 4 units because it gives you the option for if there's a vacancy, you're still covering your mortgage payments and whatnot. You really want to double check the what we call debt service coverage ratios, meaning what's your net operating income versus what your debt service would be, because on a high leverage loan you may not cash flow very well, and so you have to build into your plan, what are my reserves in case somebody goes vacant? Because if something goes vacant, how long is it going to take to re-tenant it? How long do I have to repaint it, and who's going to do that work? Do I have to replace the cabinetry? Going into it, do your due diligence. also
with make sure you do all the
your
inspections.
Absolutely.
You know, all the, you know, roof, plumbing, foundation. Make sure you all of it. Make sure it's really looked at, and electrical.
Yep.
You know, that's all. All your systems need to be checked.
And a 3% down is a owner-occupied loan, so you're going to need to occupy that property at least in one of the units, which will cut into your income, but it'll allow you. It'll cut into your rental income, but at the same time, you're not necessarily paying for an apartment, so to speak. If you go that route, just be aware though that, you know, if you don't occupy a property and you say you're occupying it, it's technically lender fraud, and they could call the note due, and you could be in a world of trouble.
Yeah, and make sure you have plenty of reserves, because there's, you know, you don't know what's going to happen down the road. You could get 2 or 3 vacancies, and then how are you going to cover that mortgage payment? And then another thing, Ken, is make sure you look for alternative income opportunities in these properties. You know, maybe one thing that we've done a couple of videos on is an accent wall. You can offer your tenants to paint one wall that's an accent wall. It's an extra, depending on your area, you know, 10, 15, 20 $20 a month. You pick out 5 colors, and before they move in, say, listen, I'm offering an accent wall. It's an extra X amount of money a month. Do you want to add that to the rent? So you just add that to the rent every month. So always look for opportunities to make additional income.
Okay, so that's brought me to my second point. So assuming that I've done everything that you said here, so I could then proceed to rent out the property and then renovate it. So then I get income depending on various variables, and then it would increase the value of the property, so then I could refinance it and then get a good profit from that.
You can potentially refinance it at a later date. Make sure that the loans and the type of financing that you're getting don't have prepayment penalties, so it allows you to do that. If this is your goal, also take into consideration having certain endorsements with the title company when you acquire it, so that you may not have to get a full title policy. It'll cut your cost down. Really build that in. If you're looking at but I would also look at, you know what, just in case this is where I'm at, in case I can't refinance it or something happens, you know, the market may crash or whatever, that I'm still okay, I'm cash flowing. One of the things that a lot of new investors forget to do when it comes to a property, especially one that they're renovating, is still build in a reserve. And what I mean by that, I don't know, what area are you in, Ken? Geographic.
Suburbs.
I'm sorry?
Suburbs.
Okay.
Virginia.
Virginia suburbs. So you, I don't know if you have tornadoes that come there, but you possibly have some wind damage. I know tropical storms can sometimes get up that way. And the reason why I say that is, even though you have a new roof, and even though you have insurance, you typically have a $10,000 deductible. So you want to make sure you have at least that much in your reserves in case something does happen. So, you know, the way insurance works, they're not going to pay for 100% of the replacement or repair. You're responsible for, you know, the deductible for the first, whatever the deductible is, typically $10,000. It may be higher. So if that's the route you're going, you want to make sure that you still have those reserves. A lot of times new investors don't build that in because they think, oh, you know what, it's a newer roof. I won't need it for 15 years. I don't need to replace it. But if you're in an area that may have some issues with rain, wind damage, things like that, you want to take all of that into consideration.
You know, and make sure you're getting your team in place too, Ken. That's something I wanted to bring up. I didn't want to interrupt George. Is if you need to make sure you've got a good plumber, a good electrician, a good landscaper. Make sure you have that. Make sure, you know, all that team is in place before you make your first investment. Make sure your team's in place.
Okay. So network.
Yep.
Get all that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is my last question here. So we've probably conducted thousands of deals. So how hard is it to get a tenant?
Well, it's not that difficult. You really, to get a tenant, you know, you want to make sure you've got your places you're at market rate. You know, we see a lot of the new investors will come in and they'll go out and they'll completely overbuild their interiors. They'll put in granite counters when it doesn't need to be. Make sure you spend spend the money that is conducive to the market that you're in. And make sure you put the fixtures that are conducive to the market you're in. Don't overspend, but make sure you're at market rate, or maybe you could be a smidge above. Just make sure you've got a very clean property. Make sure that you've put it everywhere. You're going to do the leasing yourself? Probably? Okay. Yeah, make sure you've got it everywhere. Talk to, if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you talk to everybody in the community. Say, listen, if you guys want to help pick your neighbors, then I'm going to be renting these apartments out. Offer them some kind of incentive, gift cards from Starbucks or wherever you want, whatever the case may be. Offer them something for referring you a good tenant in. Make sure you get it in all the websites that you can get it into, and let everybody know that, you know. And then once you've got some of them occupied, ask your renters, incentivize them to give you people they know that they can rent, that you can rent it out to, so they can also pick their next door neighbor.
Yeah. You know, and this is George. I just want to just step a little bit back. I mean, it's easy to find a tenant. It's a lot harder to find a good tenant. And Joe had said a good tenant a few times. I think that needs a little bit more elaboration. You really want to make sure that you vet out the, you know, first of all, make sure the property is priced right. The market's going to tell you from the inquiries that you get whether or not you're priced right. Then when you do have inquiries on tenants, don't necessarily accept the very first one. You want to make sure you vet them out. You want to make sure that you run a credit report, or a third party runs the credit report. You want to make sure that someone is calling for employment verifications, not just getting the stubs and saying, hey, they're employed, but you know, they could have just gotten fired or quit their job yesterday. So you want to verify that. Also call the references. Most importantly, call the previous owner. I can't tell you how many times when we're doing that, a lot of times it's the, oh, it was a neighbor, it's the mom, it's the, or girlfriend, and oh, I'm living with my girlfriend, and this, and I'm looking to move out. That's not necessarily the case. Those are typical red flags, actually. So, you know, because it just tends to be, get the backstory. What I mean by that is, don't accept anything. You can ask questions. Just make sure that, you know, the questions that you ask apply to everybody and they don't violate any of the laws when it comes to, oh goodness gracious, I just lost the word. When it comes to violate any of the housing laws,
Okay.
So
Equal housing.
Equal housing laws. Thank you. So, you know, just keep that in mind, and you know, but I think everybody's, and the reason why I say run your own credit report, not accept theirs. I mean, you're 16 years old. You can probably do this faster than I can, but you can open up an Adobe PDF and change it and make it look incredible.
Yeah, you can run a TransUnion.
You know, anybody can do it if they run their own report. They get it in a PDF format. It can easily be modified and changed. So don't accept that. Make sure that you run one.
You know, Ken, another good, I want to go on to where places to find them. If you create a really nice flyer and get some really nice photographs, go around to all the offices in the area and leave flyers around for everybody to see. So really work your community connections, churches, office buildings,
schools.
Schools are great. You can get teachers in, fire departments, anything in that community. Make sure you do a leave behind. They've got all your contact information, some really nice photos of the property, nice light, bright area. Show the kitchen, show the bathrooms, you know, the key points, and or patios if there are any, and the common areas if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Create a very nice visual.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all I had for now, I guess.
Okay.
So,
Well, Ken, thank you very much for taking the time today. I appreciate the questions. I think it's amazing that at 16 years old you're giving this much thought to your future. And always, you've got my phone number. Reach out anytime. If you buy a property and you want us to walk through it with you, be happy to do that, okay?
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right, Ken. Thank you very much. I'll let you know when this video is going to be out, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, so a 16-year-old thinking about his future. That's impressive.
Impressive is all
impressive.
hell. Yeah, 4 minutes. Perfect.
It's amazing that he's thinking about it. So I hope you like what you heard today. Make sure you check out the videos, the other videos we have down below. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe. Thank you. Thank you, George, for coming in today, too.
Thanks for having me.